And welcome to Crusher Convo, where we're crushing the conversation one episode at a time. We have a special episode for you today, as I have a Greenshirt graduate, fellow podcaster, and friend from Greenshirt Podcast, a Newbie's Trek Through the Next Generation, Cameron.
That's me. Hello, Jesse.
Hello. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm sorry I'm not wearing a green shirt. I have a lot of laundry to fold and iron.
It's okay. I'm not wearing a green shirt either, but you've graduated. So
sure, yeah.
You need to, what did you say? You wanted to be a science officer?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll take that. Always science, blue. Whether it's Star Trek or Harry Potter, blue is my color.
Oh, so you're Ravenclaw?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm Slytherin. So
of course you are, yes.
So I'm always right. I know. So I'm always a green shirt, I guess. But before we get started, I want to do this real fast. Here's my sponsor. So Cherry Tree Incorporated, where they make awesome board cube computers, really cool keyboards. If you want to know Klingon, that's the way to do it. And of course, my lovely cat on a board cube figurine, which is behind me. If you want to order something from there, please use my code CrusherConvo6 to get 6% off your order. You can go to mycherrytree.com and you can find them on socials at Cherry Tree Incorporated. Wanted to do that real fast. But yeah, here's my little Borg kitty.
Oh, there he is.
I call him Obi Borg because it's Obi-Wan on a Borg cube. Gotta love my little Obi-Wan on there. But for all the listeners who haven't heard of Greenshirt, please explain to everyone how Greenshirt came about and what it's about.
Sure. Greenshirt came about because two things were kind of happening simultaneously about 7 years ago. A friend of mine and I were like, well, let's start one of these podcasts we always hear about, because I was about to have my second child, and I was like, I don't have time for filmmaking anymore. That takes up too much time, but maybe podcasting, thinking it took up less time, which maybe less, but not much less. And then I had finally, I don't know why I first did, but I was on Netflix and I was like, oh, maybe I'll finally start watching TNG, because I had never really watched it. I'd, run across an episode here or there, but I don't know if I ever actually sat down and watched a full episode before then. So I had watched a couple of TNG episodes and kind of posted about them on Facebook. Questions I was having, like, wait. Why is there a Klingon on the bridge? Why aren't they explaining that there's a truce with the Klingons? Because the last movie we saw, Klingon killed Kirk's son, not his dad.
Son, yeah.
Yes.
Good old David.
So anyways, questions like that. And there's a lot of response from people. People liked talking about TNG. I realized how many people in my generation loved that show. And so then I was like, oh, maybe this is our podcast. So I stopped watching about 7 episodes in, and then we started episode by episode going through, and I would share my thoughts with my two friends, one who hadn't seen it in a long time and one who'd watched it a few times over and absolutely loved it. And that lineup has changed a little bit over the years, but we just wrapped up season 7 and are now talking about the movies, and that's where we're at.
A 7-year journey.
It was, yeah. Somehow it wound up being that, because we used to release season 1. We released every week, and that was just a lot of work. And so when we took a long hiatus, and when we decided to come back, we're like, well, let's just do every other week and make it a little easier on ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, but you committed to it. Like, there was a lot of times, especially on Twitter and stuff, it would be like, mute these hashtags so then Cameron doesn't see it. I know some things did kind of spoil over the years, but I think overall you did pretty good because
I was surprised how many things I didn't know.
Right. I happen to be one of the lucky few to have to see you watch the finale, the series finale, and there was moments where you're like, "What?" And I was like, "Yes, he finally got to that part." Now, do you have a favorite episode of your podcast or even like a favorite moment? I have a favorite moment. We've talked about this before.
Oh, yeah, I want to hear those. It's funny, having finished the series, I'm going back and listening to the podcast. I mean, I've listened to an episode here or there when like I listened to the first Moriarty episode when we were doing the second Moriarty episode. That could have made more sense, but I listened to our first Moriarty episode when we were watching Ship in a Bottle, just to kind of like, what happened in that first episode? I'll just listen to our podcast. But now I'm going through, so I'm like 5 episodes into the very first season, being like, wow, it's amazing how much has changed and how much has stayed the same since those first early ones. But a favorite, I always go back to one of two from the OG days. I feel like The Big Goodbye was one of the first episodes where we kind of really started hitting our stride, and there's just a lot of like really fun moments. I felt like I had a pretty good takedown of the episode, but at the time, our friend co-host Alex, who was not enjoying his rewatch, there's a moment where he was like, "But guys, I know this episode's dumb, but I really liked it," and it was fun. I like that one a lot, and then. Identity Crisis is a very fun episode. That's my go-to. It might have the most just like uncontrolled laughter of any episode. So there's a lot of good things to come out of there. People who are familiar might know the Horsey Phillips gag, which I don't know if it started there, but it definitely peaked there. And some Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions that just make you giggle. And
gotta love Marcy.
Good times there. Yes.
Good times. And actually, I'm a supporter of the pot. Here's the mug.
That.
There, yep, I got it here. Drinking my decaf.
A certain sticker on my water bottle.
Oh, look at that one. Seize the day, Mother Crushers.
Little mutual admiration.
Which you coined, by the way.
I mean, I wasn't going to say it, but
I give credit where credit is due. I will tell you still to my favorite moment, and I can't even tell you what episode it was. And here's the thing. I loved your podcast because I was going through my own journey at the time and watching TNG for the first time. And thanks to Michelle, she's like, "You got to listen to Greenshirt." And so I was like, okay. And I'm listening to it at work. And I remember I binged it from episode 1. And I remember tweeting you like every day. These are my thoughts about it. And you were like, okay. And it had been, because it had been years since you even had heard it. But you were like, oh, I remember that. It was the moment, though, when Marcy and Rob tried to get you to believe that they believed in flat Earth.
Well, it started with Marcy, and she convinced Rob.
And then he was like,
"That is definitely a classic."
It took me a moment, to be honest, because I was at work. I was a laundry attendant at the time. I had my headphones, and I'm hearing this. I'm like, "Are they joking?" Because even you were like, "Wait, guys, like, wait, what?" And then when I realized they were joking, I was laughing so hard that someone actually had to come in and be like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I'm fine. I'm fine. It's okay."
That's great.
Just listen to my podcast. So had a lot of great moments there. Now, since you now have watched all of the 7 seasons, out of all the TNG characters, and it could be anyone, okay, who is your favorite?
That's a favorite. I mean,
you can give me a top 5 if that helps.
Well, okay, all right. I mean, Q is hard to beat, of course. Like, there's never a bad Q moment, really. I mean, obviously, Data is incredible and deserves every bit of iconic status he's had.
Absolutely.
I mean, I love Luoxana. Like, it took a while for her to grow into her role. I mean, she was always fun from the beginning, but like the journey they took with that character, I think is amazing. And I think she's an amazing character. And yeah, I know she's appeared once on DS9. I kind of doubt she's going to make another appearance, but I've got my fingers crossed. So yeah, those, I mean, well, and Dr. Crusher, of course, Dr. Crusher.
I was waiting.
I mean, I was just listening again. I think it was like the third or fourth episode where I'm like, guys, I think I'm starting to crush on Crusher because she was just such like a badass doctor in those first few episodes. And when, Tasha and Troy were not getting their due, Beverly definitely stood out as a great female character on that cast.
It's true. I mean, season 1 has its flaws, obviously.
What?
I know. I'm sorry to break the news, guys. There was some issues. I mean, but the fact is, though, at least we got Beverly in every episode when all of a sudden Troy would be like, just gone.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, it's like, where's Troy? On a conference. Like, or like Denise used to make that joke of like, can you just make a mock of my legs? Because all I'm doing is just standing behind them, doing nothing, just standing there.
Occasionally making a suggestion that gets rejected.
Tossed aside. Yes. Now, do you have a least favorite character?
Oh, least favorite. I mean, there's definitely been some guests, one-offs that I didn't enjoy. Basically, any of Troy's relationship entanglements. But
Man of the People comes to mind, I guess.
That was one of them. Then wait, there's that one, and then the other one with the Devanani Rawl. Is that his name?
Yes,
with the weird hair stroking. Oh, was that Man of the People?
I believe so.
Because then there's the other one that turns her old. I thought maybe that was a different one.
That could be Man of the People. I don't know. I don't like both of them, so that's fine.
Of them, least favorite, that shows up a number of times. No, I don't know. You've listened to all my episodes. Was there someone I criticized a lot?
I'm trying to think.
I mean, I'm not trying to be diplomatic. Like, all of the characters are great. We talk about how, like, even through season 1's ups and downs, mostly downs, like the performances, the actors, what they infused in the characters made it watchable, made you want to watch the next episode. I mean, I remember finishing Code of Honor, like notoriously one of the worst episodes, and being like, oh, well, I wonder what they get up to next time. Like, I wanted to watch the next episode just because they are immeasurably watchable. So, I mean, none of the main cast, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not a Klingon fan. I mentioned that a few times. And so I wasn't a huge fan of any of the Klingon episodes or even like the Duras sisters, just because I'm just like, however, Kaylar, she was badass.
Well, she's only half Klingon. You like her human half, don't you?
She just was great. So she's like the only Klingon that I would make an exception for, but then they killed her off on the second episode. So I'm just like, of course, that's the Klingon that I like. she gets killed. I know. I can't remember. Are you a fan of Vash or? Oh
yeah, I like Vash. I thought she was great.
Okay. I couldn't remember.
I love Vash. I mean, Pulaski was fun. She was good. They were doing some good stuff with her character, and she shook up our main core a lot. So, yeah, I mean, even Gomez, I was like, why did she only get 2 episodes? I want more Gomez.
I know, right? And we only got, one of, like, Ashley Judd. I enjoyed her character.
Oh, yeah. She was on 2 episodes, right? I think she came back once.
Ish. Yeah, it's like 1 1/4 because she just made a small appearance. And then wasn't really a fan of, was Leah Brahms. I wasn't really a huge fan of hers.
Yeah, I mean, they did great stuff with their character. Honestly, I mean, I know the Traveler has his fans. I wouldn't say I hate him, but I don't know. He was always a little weird,
he's
a
sus.
little off for me. He's sus.
He's a little sus. We're not gonna.
Don't tell the others about what we're doing here, Wesley. It's beyond them. You and me are special.
Well, even with Picard, like, especially the mother. Don't tell them. Yeah. What does Picard do? He's like, hey, look, this guy says your kid's like Mozart. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm glad at least Picard didn't keep that out for Beverly. So I'm going to ask you a pretty deep question when it comes to all of this. I know I was trying to think of more questions, but this one kind of stood out the most for me. What is the biggest thing you have learned while doing this podcast? 7 years commitment, just doing the whole, because you didn't stray away. You didn't do little peeks or anything. Like, spoilers kind of hit you, but you didn't like go out and actually, you waited 7 years to see that series finale. Right. So what would be the biggest thing that you learned from this?
I mean, like, personally about life, or like about Star Trek, or like the biggest surprise?
Both, all of it. What do you got?
Oh boy, I mean that people actually wanted to listen to us talk for. I meant to double check how many hours. Um, what did I learn? That there are that it's Wolf 359. That those are the numbers of a wolf, and that it's a real
I'm
star.
so
And I better get that
excited.
freaking straight, Cam. That it's transporting and not teleporting.
Hmm.
I think I've just learned that in the last couple episodes. I was
I
still
think you
being
have, yeah.
reminded, but
You
now
had. I think Rob mentioned it. He's like, you said you said
I don't think
transporting.
Rob cares.
Like,
John
oh, it was
was
John. I'm sorry. Yeah.
what did I learn? I mean, I talk about, is it learning? I mean, that in the world of podcasting, and in particular, like some sort of niche podcasting, like the Star Trek podcasting community, that it really is like a rising tide lifts all boats. That you don't need to be competitive. That you can make friends with other great podcasters and really help each other out. And that's, when I started, it was all like, "Ooh, I gotta take their followers. I gotta take their listeners," because people only have so much time, and if they're not listening to us,
Hmm.
they're listening to other people. And not that lasted long, but pretty quickly I was like, oh, of course, if there's people I'm going to relate to, it's other Star Trek podcasters, and quickly becoming friends with them and finding that community is much more fulfilling than trying to be the best.
Hmm. What was the first podcast friendship you formed?
Ooh, what I well, I mean, I guess it would be with Jesse over on the Sudden But Inevitable podcast, who we then joined forces to make Open Pike Night.
Hmm.
Would he be the first friend? Probably, yeah, yeah. I remember just slipping into his DMs and him being like, "You have a Star Trek podcast," and I was like, "You have a Firefly podcast. You want a guest? I want a guest. You want a guest? Okay."
I think that's one of the cool things is where the guesting,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I learned that pretty quickly because I met you guys and I met, of course, the guys at It's Got Star Trek and even Unplanned Trek and all of
Mm-hmm.
these podcasts were kind of coming together. And it was like, hey, you want to come on my show? I was like, sure. Can we talk about Beverly Crusher? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, as long as it's about Star Trek, it didn't really matter.
Yeah, it's always
Um,
fun over, on Twitter or now on Blue Sky or wherever, just being like, "Oh, you're talking about this movie. I really like that movie." And then, like, moments later, you get a DM like, "Hey, want to come guest and talk about this movie?" Sure. All I did
sure.
was say I really like Trimmers, but okay, let's do this.
Tremors is an awesome movie.
Yes, yeah, that's the perfect movie.
I do love, yes, I do love some Tremors. And actually, you and I share a love of a certain movie that is right behind.
Inspired Trimmers. There's my Jaws walls over there.
There it
Happy
is.
almost 50th anniversary.
Poke my head. Have the sign. Yes, our love of Jaws. I think it was kind of funny. I remember when I don't know who had mentioned it. I probably did. I was probably saying something, and you were like, oh, "I love Jaws." I was like, "You love Jaws? I love Jaws." Like all of a sudden, it became a thing.
Well, probably one of us was probably using a Jaws GIF. I know I use a lot of them. The
I don't.
crushing the
I don't.
can.
I don't use a lot of gifts, but I know I get a lot of gifts.
Ah,
And I think that's probably what happened. My husband's like, "Here's some Jaws stuff," and I was just like posting it all over. That was
perhaps.
my favorite scene in the movie
Hmm.
when Brody is, well, when Hooper is telling him to go
Get
out the
out.
end of the boat, and
I
he's
need you for
on.
scale.
And he's, I need you for scale. He's, foreground my ass. And he
Yeah.
goes, that back and forth. Love that. That is, cinematic greatness. Now, like you've already mentioned, not only have you done Greenshirt, but you're also part of Open Pike Night with producer John and Jesse. What is it about podcasting that you love so much?
Oh, well, I mean, I have to be creating something. It's some sort of project to be working on. And so, I mean, everyone loves just like hanging around and talking about stuff they enjoy with their friends. So it's definitely a version of that. But again, it's like it's the project bar. I like coming up with different segments. I like kind of gamifying things. That's always fun to me. I like coming up with a plan and executing it and then releasing it to the world. And it's not quite the same as film festivals, but it's a lot like it. And so I think that's what I like about it. And then just finding other people with the shared interests and It's a fun kind of whirlpool is the word that's coming to mind for some reason. They just get sucked into and drawn into.
That's a
It feels
very
like
good
at times.
analogy.
Like you're just kind of on the outside for a while looking at everyone else, and then pretty soon you're in the midst, and
You're trying to stay above water.
That's right, yeah.
So I have to admit this. I don't know if I ever told you this.
Oh.
But one of the things, like I had said earlier, when I started watching TNG and Michelle told me to listen to your podcast, I had already binged it, right? I didn't wait 7 years. I only didn't do it.
Right. I mean, both TNG and my show, I don't know where you found the hours.
At work. Folding laundry with some earbuds. That's how you do it.
What speed do you listen to?
I'm speed 1. I was able to do it.
Good. You're a purist like
even
me.
in the car. I was very in it, right? So I would play it in the car. So
did you start with episode 1, or how'd you start?
For your podcast?
Yes, yeah.
I listened to Ethics. You had just done it. Yeah. You had just done it like the month before.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted a Beverly episode. And of course, you were barely in season 5. And so I wanted to see what your guys' thoughts on Beverly were before I got into it. But since Michelle liked it, I was like, it has to be good.
Right.
But one of the things is that because I deep dived in everything, and yes, I binged your podcast pretty quickly. That's what got me excited about podcasting, because one of the things is I never ever listened to a podcast. Like that was just my thing. I mean, I grew up with radio and going to Dodger games and listening to Vince Scully and things like that, but podcasting just wasn't something that I was interested in. So when I binged TNG, the first podcast I listened to was Gates, because I wanted to learn more about the actors and stuff, because I do like documentaries and stuff. Well, when I started listening to your guys's and then hearing you guys discuss, and that's where I was tweeting you guys my thoughts on it. And then that was even sometimes you'd be like, I never thought of it this before, and getting that perspective. That's when I was like, this is fun. Like it's fun. I enjoyed it. And that's when, instead of doing a podcast though, because I didn't think I could, that's when I did the Twitter Spaces. And of course, people enjoyed it. We all had conversations, and it was just enjoyable. And it was just something that, like you said, got to meet other people, have similar interests, even if I know a lot of people who really don't like Crusher, but they have good reasons to like Pulaski more in this. And then it's like, well, why? Like, why is it this? And why do you like it this way? And I like that. I grew up in a Star Wars fan base, which is not exactly the most positive, but with you guys and Marcy and Rob and Bobby and John and even Jesse and all them, it's just I've never really felt connected with a group of people and having similar interests and having just straight up positive conversations, even if we don't agree. It's like, cool, let's go go grab a coffee. Like it just didn't matter. And so you guys really inspired me to be like, I want to be a podcaster.
Nice.
And got me into creating this whole thing of showcasing my love for Beverly Crusher without it seeming a little too creepy, but
a little creepy. So
it's just a smidge, but so thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Crusher Convo
I'm also sorry
because I know it's a lot of work. It can't take up your time. But it's a good stress relief, to be honest. I like to create things. I do make my videos still and stuff like that, but sometimes it can take time, and sometimes it's a bit much, and sometimes I just want to crash in bed and be like, I'm good. I'm gonna wait until tomorrow. But it's just fun having those conversations. So yes, thanks to Greenshirt, Crusher Convo was born. So
there you go. Without one, there's always another. I don't know.
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say like, you didn't want to dive into the podcasting, so you did the Twitter Spaces, where I'd be like, I don't know, whenever we do something live, which we've done a few times, it is kind of like very stressful for me, because I love the ability to edit something in post. I love, like, that's my, coming from the film background, it's just like, if I can't have some sort of control over what is released to the viewing public, it's tricky.
Yeah.
me. It's a lot. It's added pressure. That's what it is. So,
Yeah.
I mean, good for you for starting there.
Well, I mean, I at first was just doing having the conversations, and then I started to do the editing, and then it just took a life of its own, right? And when I decided to come back and do season 2, I was like, let's do a video, let's do live, let's have other people still kind of come in, because I think that was the one thing that I missed versus just recording an episode like we would do in podcasts, is having other people chime in. Right. So I would have people on the chat and get their thoughts. And sometimes I'm like mind blown because I'm like, I didn't think of that, So I'm kind of combining the two of podcasting and Twitter spaces and, having the video podcasting. And it does help in editing. I will say with my job, if it helps, I'm going to do it. So since you did grow up though watching the original series prior to the TNG, or at least
I
had
haven't seen
some of it,
all
right?
of them, but I watched a lot of the old show. I remember watching it with like my aunt and mom, and then the movies, the TOS movies, were why I would consider myself a Star Trek fan growing up. And it wasn't until like I started watching TNG when I was like, oh, I guess I haven't seen the vast majority of Star Trek that's out there. Like I consider myself a fan, but I've seen really like a handful of movies and half a series.
Yeah. And it's so big.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time I got into it, it's a lot. I still haven't got through all of it. I'm almost done with Enterprise, and I'm proud of myself. And now I'm going to start listening to Abby and Chris's podcast because now I can and understand it.
I know, right? I listened to the first episode and I was like, oh, they jump around. I got to slow down, or I mean, speed up my watching, but I'm still only in season 1.
So I guess now that you have seen all of TNG, you're getting into DS9, you know of TOS, and of course you know Strange New Worlds and all that because of Open Pike Night. What would you consider your Trek and why?
Well, yeah, I mean, going back, it's hard to break away from your original. Like, I've rewatched the original cast movies 1 through 6 a couple times recently, and even the first 20 minutes of Generations, just reminding myself like, oh yes, I love these characters. I grew up with these characters. I'm sure I am who I am today partly because of these characters in these movies. So it's incredibly hard to take that sort of nostalgia, emotional nostalgia, and separate it. So I would say, yeah, the TOS movies are still my Trek, but definitely TNG. There is a certain amount of, I don't know if ownership's the right word, maybe ownership of it over me now because of all this, like it's kind of my job in a way. I'm not getting paid for it, but otherwise it's part of my brand, my identity. So very much at the same time, 2 seasons into DS9, I'm like, oh yeah, this is probably the best Star Trek I've ever seen. Like this is peak Star Trek, and I'm not even to the good seasons yet. So, when it's all said and done, who knows how it all fall. But yeah, I mean, TNG looms large for sure right now.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say TNG just because that was really the first Trek that I watched.
It's so hard because I have a lot of Star Trek stuff, right? And so people come up and like, oh, are you a Star Trek fan? Or, oh, you're a fan of TNG? And I'm like, that's a complicated answer. I mean, I am a fan, but like...
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I always told people, because my stepdad liked the original series. He saw it when he was younger. And my mom saw the movies. But the only thing that I remember growing up was my dad had this heat-sensitive mug when heat-sensitive mugs were a thing back in the late 80s, early 90s. And it was of Bones, Spock, and Kirk. When it would heat up, they would disappear. Of course, we accidentally microwaved it too many times. It broke, and
you can never keep them. Like everyone, even now, they're all over the place. There, you always get them in like mystery boxes and stuff. And yeah, one accident will ship through the dishwasher, and they're gone forever.
That's it. It's over. But I kind of wish I still had it now, just to like put it on my shelf. But no, they got rid of it a lot. I'm sure. Actually, Giraffe from Strange New Pod, when I had mentioned that, she's like, I have that mug. She's like, it's over there. I was like, oh my gosh. So those were like the moments where I was like, wow, that little mug when I was a kid, the only thing that I knew of Star Trek and here's someone else who's like a huge fan and has the same mug. Felt connected.
That's right.
Felt definitely a connection there.
You know those shirts with like the little sequins where if you brush up, it's one image, and if you brush down, and I wonder if there's one of those with the teleporter. Should be.
Patent it.
Starting it.
Go do it. Let's go. All right. I laughed because when he saw that, he was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a Nebula now." So I'm like, Nebula Nemechek.
Yeah.
So I have the second version of his book. So I believe this does all 7 seasons and generations. It doesn't do the rest of the movies like the third book does. But I want you to give me an episode, and I'm gonna look and see if there's something special out of there. So like any episode, yeah.
Oh. What's
any
the first episode that pops to mind? No, I want to go further back than season 7. Let's pick what's the one that I'm always like, oh yeah, that's an episode that exists that I always forgot about. No, let's go with Peak Performance.
Peak Performance. Oh, we're going season 2. Really?
That's right. my dark horse top 25 episode.
Oh, that's right. So yeah, that was absolutely hilarious when you guys were top 25. I was just happy Cause and Effect made number 1.
Over Parallels though. Over Parallels.
Yeah.
Cause and Effect's fine.
Yeah. No. Well, why do you think? The Klingon episode
or where Crusher figures everything out. Yeah.
Yeah. But for being a Klingon episode, it's a good one. Parallels is good. So let me see here. It says the Ferengi returned to grace here as comic foils, and they were more refined, uniform to boot. Note the yin yang collar pips signifying rank. Ermin Shimmerman, the second to play 2 Ferengi roles, last Outpost and now this one, later starred as a third Quark on the spinoff of DS9.
I forgot that was Shimmerman in that one. I knew he had come back for a second episode.
Yep, this one's it. He says Brock Smith later had recurring roles on Picket Fence and Lois and Clark, while Zoc would again be seen in Menage a Troi and Unification 2. The animator shards seen in this episode are actually blue candle wax.
The animator shard? Cool. Oh, right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Hathaway's Bridge is yet another redress of the film set, and the Tholians referred to in the Icarus Factor are mentioned here again, this time as a victim of Riker's quick thinking during the Academy simulation.
There's a shot from inside the warp core, too. Or at least the crystal chamber.
Yeah. He says the Lacars were seen prominently on Enterprise computer screens here, and other segments stand for Library Computer Access Retrieval System.
Oh, that's what
look at that
for.
We got to learn a little.
Your Lacars framework here.
Oh well, thank you. Yes,
very pro.
It's very girl-ish, right? I went with the same color instead of red, gold, and the teal blue. I went a little pastel, but it works. Mm-hmm. But there is your Nemechek it out of Peak Performance.
Thank you, Larry.
Speaking of Riker, you have a certain project happening right now. So
happening is a strong word.
Happening-ish. It's a goal.
It's orbiting. It's in what do they call parking orbit or something?
Yeah.
I share a birthplace with the fictional character of Commander Riker, not Jonathan Frakes, but Commander Riker and I were both born he will be born in Valdez, Alaska. And so ever since I found out about that long before I watched TNG and just knew about the characters, I think a buddy of mine told me. I was like, oh, well, we should totally do a statue there. And years and years later, I finally was like, well, maybe we should actually do a statue there. So for, I don't know how long, 7 years, 6 years, 5 years at least, I've been working towards getting a statue of William Riker in Valdez, Alaska. It seemed like everything was starting to finally happen in Coalesce, and then Paramount decided to sell itself and fire everybody, and so we're kind of on a hold because I think like the whole law department got laid off. So before we can make any contracts, we need that sale to go through. And and it all comes to the Trump administration now, and Kamala Harris CBS interview is now in control of when Paramount will be able to actually be sold, and so we're all waiting on that in a funny way. But hopefully, once that happens, we can begin work again on getting that erected. Yes, he will be doing the Riker pose is the plan. We've got a sculptor. We've got everything. We don't have money, but we've got plans to do the fundraiser. We've got a lot of people interested. A lot of people up in Alaska are really eager for this to happen. So we're waiting, and hopefully it will still.
Yeah, unfortunately, can't really do a Beverly one unless we put it on the moon. So
well, one day perhaps.
One day, maybe in 150 years when we're orbiting and decide to go onto the moon. And
I was able to mention that to Mr. Jonathan Frakes when we interviewed him over on Open Pike Night, which you can hear tomorrow, First Contact Day, and when we will be dropping that interview. So you can hear his thoughts on being from Alaska and the statue.
I was excited when because I was listening to your guys' latest episode, which was Generations, and you had mentioned that you had interviewed Jonathan Frakes. I was like, what? Mm-hmm. Super excited. But I feel like it's kind of interesting because I did get to interview Gates last season. So here's you like doing this whole, Riker statue, and you got to talk to Jonathan, and here's my podcast basically about Crusher, and I got to talk to Gates. So super excited. Coming full circle.
Podcasting can do. Yeah, I know.
I know. Like, I remember
barriers between fans and those who make the stuff is definitely becoming less so.
I feel like it's just more and more just, let's come on. Like I got to talk to like Aaron Walke and Mike McMahon and, talk to John a couple of times. And the thing is that this is kind of now that, instead of doing interviews on like Good Morning America, they're going on podcasts because that's their genre. That's their place to be heard. Right. And I do remember, though, a special moment I shared with you when we saw each other in Vegas. We went and talked to Gates. And what was funny is that we weren't talking about Star Trek. All three of us were just talking about being podcasters.
Oh, yes. Yep.
And how editing is horrible. And she's all like, I know, like, she's like, I have to be careful because I don't want to take out too much, but then I'm leaving too much. And it was just so fun to talk to her about something that we all shared, right? Mm-hmm. Like we all understood where we were coming from. I mean,
that's definitely a highlight moment too, was
right.
You and Gates McFadden there at Vegas. That was super fun.
It was lots of fun with the RIP little Wesley or Tiny Wes.
Yeah, I did. Thanks to Michelle, I have a new one.
Oh, perfect.
He's traveled back with the Traveler even.
With the Traveler.
Yep, there they are.
Oh, there he is.
Wesley, don't tell them about our powers, our secret powers.
He was just creepy, man. I don't know if it was meant to be creepy.
Yeah, I mean, the actor, like, he did what he could to make it just seem mintery and calming and otherworldly, but
right.
Some of the lines was like, dude, you're grooming this kid.
Just a little bit. And I'm, sometimes I'm surprised though that, I mean, luckily, like I said, Picard told Beverly, but I would have been like, who are you?
Yeah.
He's 15. Like, what's going on?
I do love it. Do you remember this guy? Oh, you mean the one who magically showed up and helped me escape a warp bubble that I was living in? Yeah, I remember that. It was kind of a big deal in my life.
Right. Oh my gosh. Of course, I think Picard was just only worried about bringing Beverly back. He's like, oh yeah, he shimmered out, but it's fine. He phased. It's okay.
On the ship all the time.
Yeah, no big deal. I will say though, Riker's line when they asked if Beverly was okay. And he's what the traveler said something stupid like, if she thinks she's okay, then she's okay, or something like that. And he's like,
What
what
the hell
the
does
hell
that
does
mean?
that mean?
Love Riker.
Thank you, Riker. Thank you. So I'm actually going to go into the tricorder rating.
My tricorder.
So the tricorder rating, if I can get this up, there it is. So I got 6 votes this time, guys. And the question was, when did Star Trek enter your life, right? And I was born into it, elementary, middle school, high school, or older, or late bloomer like me, saw it as an adult. All 6 votes were like elementary, middle school. And I actually got one cool story where it was on Blue Sky. He said that he saw TOS at Sears. So he's like, my parents went to Sears to go buy like a washing machine or something. And at the time, and they still do these, but of course now they're showing like screensavers. But at the time, they would show TV shows on TVs. And a lot of people would watch the TV there because they couldn't afford the TV at the time. And he was like, I would just sit there while they're shopping at Sears. I'll sit there and watch some TOS.
That's a good story.
And he was like, and that's where it all began. And and so he said he was like 4 or 5 years old, and he just remembers sitting in a Sears store watching the original series.
Yeah, it's funny.
Don't have that cool of a story, but I guess what I tell people, well, I watched the whole series in 2.5 weeks. Everyone's like, wow. And I'm like, yeah. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, so those were the votes. Now, would you consider yourself as born into it, or elementary, middle school because of the TOS, or
what? I guess
really
I was
a Trekkie as an
into
adult?
it. And I mean, I know my mom liked the originals. I'm sure she showed me the movies at some point. I mean, I don't remember specifically sitting down and watching them. They were just always there, so I must have been born into it. And then I do have specific memories of like staying up late and watching the series with my aunt when I stayed with them. And yeah,
That's cool.
well, it was fun. I
So
was watching Generations for the podcast the other day, and my mom came over, and she was like, why are these 2 guys together? This never happened. And I was like, no, yeah, this is the first Next Generation movie. It has Kirk in it. Like the whole first 20 minutes is a Kirk movie. And she's like, what? No. And she was there near the end. And so she started watching it, and she was into it. She was like, no, Kirk, no, don't fall off that bridge. And I'm just over here like, oh shit, I know what's going to happen. And I'm about to scar my mom with how Kirk dies. So she discovered that day.
Oh,
and she was like, is that really how he dies? I'm like, that's how he dies.
That's how he dies.
Sorry, canon.
I know. I'm not sure if I actually told my mom the bad news of what happened to Kirk. I think I'll just keep that to myself. Funny story though, because my mom is very supportive in anything that I do, even if it's something like this, like podcasting about a fictional character. She would listen to never seen an episode of TNG in her life. But she'll listen to the podcast, and then she'll ask questions. She's like, so what happened in this episode? So this happened? And then, I'm like, yes, Mom, this is, One day I was like, because I have the Blu-rays. I bought them for my husband. I was like, just stick the Blu-rays.
Watch them.
Just watch them. Just throw them on, but her birthday is actually tomorrow. She was born on First Contact Day, 150 years prior. So we'll be celebrating that. But I'm going to get into my redhead alert. Next week at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, my conversation with CEO of Nacelle Company, Brian Volk-Weiss, will drop. He is the most humble and chill dude you will ever meet. He loves his Trek and loves what he does. And I have to say, it was really a blast and an honor to talk to him. So please, you do not want to miss this. I had just, again, so much fun talking to him that he is probably now my absolute favorite conversation that I've had. But speaking of First Contact Day, tomorrow is Trek Talks 4. So starting at 9:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, the 8-ish hour long telethon begins with amazing panels and guests, as you can see here, from all over Star Trek. Hosted by John Billingsley and Bonnie Gordan. Follow them on YouTube at Trek Talks Telethon. Also, my conversation with John dropped last week, so make sure to check that out. And he was also on FSF Popcast yesterday with Bonnie to discuss Trek Talks. So definitely check that out as well. And my Patreon shout outs go to Chuck, Leslie, and Dave, who are my companion patrons, and Engineer Mark, who is my Admiral patron. If you would like to support the podcast and enjoy exclusive content, just head over to patreon.com/Crusher Convo, and you can sign up for as low as $3 a month. Well, thank you, Cameron, for joining me. This was so much fun having a conversation about TNG and your journey. Let the listeners know where they can find you.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us for that, the whole journey. It was definitely, I mean, maybe that was something I learned was, when it started, you have dreams that you're going to become this, you're going to be the next, the greatest Jin guys. And of course that didn't happen, but you're also like, but who's really is going to listen? I'm going to have like 5 friends listen to this. And there was never like a moment where it was suddenly a surge of listeners, but by the end I was like, oh, there's people joining us to watch the last episode together as a watch party. Like something happened, and we have a real community of people sharing their thoughts, going through, watching them, letting us know their thoughts. And so it's been really amazing. Thank you. Today, if you're watching on Friday, tomorrow is First Contact Day. You can check out our First Contact episode. We'll be dropping tomorrow on the day itself. It just kind of lined up that way, so you can hear our thoughts on that. Warning, I may have some hot takes. Marcy came and guessed on that, and of course me and her had our friendly fights, not fights, but sort of fights.
Those are fun.
Yes, I am looking forward. I'm going to go watch it in the theater. Our theater here shows it on First Contact Day, so I'm going to go watch it for the 3rd time in the last couple of weeks, but on the big screen. As I say in the episode, like I do think maybe some of my hot takes will become less hot the more I watch it, because it's definitely a good movie for sure. And I think the more you watch it and accept it for what it is, the more you enjoy it. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. You can catch us wherever you catch your podcast. Greenshirt, a Newbie's Trek Through TNG. We were working our way through the movies now. We've got 2 more movies after First Contact. Then we are going to go into Picard and do all 3 seasons of Picard. I haven't watched any of that yet. As I mentioned, we're also doing Deep Space Nine. We do the DS9 minutes, so it's a much shorter, quicker conversation about the DS9 episodes. We'll be getting back into those soon. We'll probably be taking a break for the summer, and then eventually at some point do something with Voyager, probably another short form one, and we're still kind of working out the timing because we only really want to do 2 series at a time. But yeah, so still lots more to come. So please do come find us at Greenshirt87 on Twitter, or Greenshirt Podcast on any of the other socials. We're still wherever you want to find us. So come say hi, and I'll share a Jaws gift back.
Gotta love those Jaws gifts, right? One thing, like we've been talking about how the Star Trek community is such a great place to be. And I feel in the 3 years, there's been a lot of ups and downs for me, right? And I've had a lot of support, and I've learned so much from so many different people of just what Star Trek is all about, the IDIC, the hope for a better future. And it just, people like you guys and like Marcy and like Evelyn, Abby and Chris from First Flight and everyone, the guys that It's Got Star Trek, and I could name off more, just give me hope for a better future and help me to become a better person. And so you guys have all been part of my journey through Star Trek and, going through all of this. So I thank everybody who, especially you, Cameron, because you started this podcast, and look, it's, and like you said, you had a community watch the finale of The Next Generation. And I was so excited to be there and to see it, and I felt honored to be there. So I think that is one of the biggest takes that takeaway for me. I've grown a lot, and it's people like you that I thank you.
It's a 2-way street, but thank you. Thank you very much.
But anyways, guys, thanks so much for listening. And, until next time, live long and prosper.
Where's the camera? There.
Where's the camera? There it is. And I can't find my thing. Where is it? And bye. Don't Don't forget, you can listen to all the audio versions of Crusher Combo on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can support the podcast by buying merch on TeePublic, buy me a coffee by scanning that QR code, or becoming a Patreon member for as low as $3 a month. But the best way to support Crusher Combo is to like and subscribe here on YouTube. You can also find me on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, or TikTok, so please follow me there. And of course, all this information can be found on crushercombo.com.
Crusher out.